It is Friday, November 7th. This is the Christian Commute. I am your host, Seth Dunn, and you're riding home with me from work. That's right. I came on a Friday. I almost left at lunch. I got here, and every door on my hall was closed and the lights turned off except one. I think one of the girls from AR. I think she's in AR. I don't know. I don't come here to the office every day. There's so many people are remote, but I think one of the girls whose job is AR was there. Just me and her. It's one of those days you think, uh-oh, I didn't miss the rapture, did I? But I ended up hanging around. But all I got to do is come here, right, for you to get a Christian commute, because I got to get back home. And that's what I have today. It's not a full show. Let me pull out. Let me tell you, the decision I just made to pull out, it was a safe decision. It was closer than I like. Car coming down the road. I ain't trying to sit in Friday traffic. It's a full show, but it's not a full show because there's no question in the inbox. I'm out of those. And we're finally going to talk about the gig Eva subject. It's not really hot news anymore. Like Carl Truman published his article over a week ago. Everybody's already talked about it. But I don't think I'm going to generate another rabbit trail about plastic Jesuses and weirdos. I don't think I'm going to generate another rabbit trail today, so we're going to talk about what I actually planned to talk about. But first, Tuesday you didn't get a Y Cross Point update. Just your reminder to gimme money for Y Cross Point, Y Elevation, Y Rock Bridge, and ynorthpoint.org. The next site to get substantial work is going to be the North Point site. But maybe during we'll see. I'm coaching 2.5 soccer teams right now. I'm coaching my son's team and my daughter's team. They're twins. And that takes up a lot of time. But I also help my 6U son, he's an 8U. He's an 8 and under. I help the 8 and under son's soccer coach out. I don't go to the practices because his conflict with mine, but I help him during the games. So I got 2.5 soccer teams I'm doing right now. Flag football. My younger son, he's 7, but he was playing flag football at the same time as soccer. I was having my parents help me with that practice, but they went to Arizona. So that's over. But I've been involved as a spectator coach or half coach of 4 teams this fall. I wouldn't have it any other way. On top of my full-time job. And I don't have like a clock punch job. Like I got to work a lot. Like if it ain't done, I got to go home and work on it at night. So not a lot of time to work on Y North Point. Now, I'm going to have to probably sit and do those sermon reviews. Stephen Furtick, there were sermon reviews already out there. He's so egregious. Chris Roseborough had sermon reviews of him. And Rockbridge, I'd done those sermon reviews a long time ago. Cross Point, I've been doing those over the years. So it's going to take a while when I finally sit down to get substantial things at Y North Point. It's going to take a while to get that going. But you guys can still send money for that project, if only to pay for the domains and the occasional Facebook ad. Every once in a while when they do something like really stupid, I'll do a Facebook ad of it. The other day this was actually not the other day, it was a long time ago. I had a picture of one of the tables at Cross Point, and it was earplugs and little communion cups. You know the communion cups, the little plastic ones that has the grape juice. I don't know if it's one. The grape juice in the bottom. And then there's a layer over that, and then there's the cracker, and there's a layer over that. It's the all-in-one. They have those sitting out on tables for people to grab them. I guess so you don't have to go up to the front and get them. That would take too long. Handing it out takes a long time. By the way, that's the thing you don't see in the Bible, whether it's handed out. At Baptist churches, the deacons hand it out. At Catholic church or high church, like I guess Anglican churches, you have to walk up to go get it. But, if you want to have it on a table, I guess you can have it on a table for people to grab. Some people would probably take objection to that. But on the table with the communion elements and the little cards that explained why or why not to take communion, there's earplugs for the people for the music. And I took a picture of that, but I never put it on ycrosspoint.com because I thought that would have been bad form. I was there because they were hosting a chorus concert for the kids at the elementary school, and it's just like, y'all are being nice. I'm not going to come in here and try to dog you for your earplugs. But when stuff like that comes up, I do a Facebook ad on it, and like, what are y'all people doing? Somebody contacted me today via email through ycrosspoint.com, but why are you anonymous? If you're so concerned, why are you anonymous? I'm like, dude, I am not anonymous. Everybody knows. I guess he didn't know. But everybody knows, except you. Everybody knows who I am. I say my name on the sermon reviews. I'm not keeping it a secret. But here I am, if you want to talk to me. I like to find the talkers. That's the point, to find the talkers, those tweeners who, man, something's wrong. Let me talk about this. Hopefully he'll talk to me further. But I want to tell you this, during the wintertime, I'm not doing any futsal this winter. My daughter will do a volleyball club. I'll have nothing to do with that except driving her sometimes. I'm coaching 2 basketball teams again. I'm going to do my regular team where I'm the assistant coach with a guy that I've coached with for 4 years, and then I decided to coach my son's 6U team. I do not have the mindset. I mean, I guess I do have the mind. How about this? Demeanor. I'm going to have to adjust my demeanor to coach 6-year-olds, because 6-year-olds is non-competitive, quote unquote. They say they don't keep score, but they do. Like it says, the handbook says we don't keep score, but there's a little guy on the sideline sitting there with a scoreboard. They do keep score, but it's not supposed to be competitive. It's like no fast breaks. You can't guard outside the three-point line. It's instructional, and I'm pretty good at giving instructions, I think. But I'm going to have to adjust from cutting promos on the kids and trying to drive them to win and be competitive to, hey, we want to go through the process of doing it right every time. If you mess up, well, it's not supposed to count, but let's learn our fundamentals. And you can't just, what are you doing? Even I know you can't do that to 6-year-olds, because I used to have the little Cobb County Karens out there when I was coaching soccer. They're 8. What are you doing, Evelyn? You got to cross that ball. Why'd you put that over the middle, Lacey? They're 8. I know how old they are, lady, and I know what they're capable of. But really, they're 6. I'm not going to let anybody say they're 6 to me, because they are 6. But if I learned anything from watching flag football, is that 6-year-olds and 7-year-olds can memorize a complicated play set and run it and know what to do. I've coached their football before, and our flag football coach had an elaborate audible call system. 6-year-olds can do it. I mean, good Lord, in the Industrial Revolution, 6-year-olds were working in factories. They can play basketball. Anyway, all that to say, not looking good for a timely upload of ynorthpoint.org. But if anybody else wants to help, just write to sethdunn88@gmail.com and tell me you want to help. I know you don't have to have like a certification in this. This is America. I can guide you along. The other thing we don't want to miss is Brother Williams' weekly Alabama pick. Brother Williams says Bama 27. Is somebody calling me? Oh my gosh. I get, and I'm not exaggerating, 6 calls a day from the same place wanting to try to give me a loan. And I don't need a loan from them, but they call and try to give me a loan all the time. I don't know how they got my name. I don't know why they think I need a loan, but no matter, I block a number and they call with another one. One time I finally got to the person and said, take me off the list, and they didn't. It's infuriating. Even if I needed money, let's say I desperately needed a loan and they wanted to give me one, I would rather starve than take a loan from these people. They're horrible. It's like, what do you think? You're Steve Urkel and you're going to ask Laura Winslow out so many times that she finally breaks down and says yes? No. You're horrible. You're just horrible. Why did you get in front of me and slow down? because you're driving a white car. That's why. Oh, Brother Williams, Alabama pick. That's what I was trying to do before the finance people called me quickie loan sharks. Bama 27, LSU 17. I think that's pretty reasonable. I think some people are expecting LSU to fall apart. I don't. I think they're going to play up, because I don't think anybody there like Brian Kelly, and now that he's gone, they're going to feel like they have something to prove, and they're going to give Alabama their best game. That's what I think is going to happen. And LSU has just as good of a players as Alabama does, because it's LSU. And it's not a home field advantage thing. It's at Alabama, but the Tide don't lose in Baton Rouge. That's a saying. They're coming to Alabama, and I would say LSU has a better record at Alabama than it has at LSU over the last few years. But still, Alabama scoring 27 points is not that far-fetched, even given their poor performance against South Carolina. And LSU has been flagging. LSU has lost against good opponents so far. So I'm going to go thank Brother William. I'm going to lock in Brother William's big. Lock, click, click. All right, now, let's get to the Bible chapter review. We're in Luke chapter 10, verses 21 through 22. Luke chapter 10, verses 21 through 22. The 70 have just returned. They're giving Jesus a good report, telling how demons are subject to him. I even talked about last time, I said, what does it mean that Satan fell like lightning? I went and looked that up later to get the general consensus on that. What I said about it being an attack, that's not part of the general consensus. What most people said, not most, it's not any rando people, the commentators have said, is that talks about Satan losing his authority. By the way, not in the initial satanic fall, I don't think. Right then, the inbreaking of the kingdom of God, like Jesus has sent people out, it's the inbreaking of the kingdom, and the demons are subject in Jesus' name. It's like now Jesus is here, so too bad Satan, your power is being broken. And that would I think that fits in right then, Satan falling from the sky like lightning, like he's coming down from the sky quickly. He's coming down from not literally from the sky, because he's or the heavens, because he's a spiritual being. He's unembodied, or not disembodied, but unembodied. Like I think symbolically he's falling. His authority is falling because Jesus is there. I don't think the lightning strike refers to the attacks. I would agree with the consensus people who said, not just because it's consensus, but it's consensus, I think, because it's right, who say that's Satan's authority waning and falling precipitously at the inbreaking of the kingdom. If you want to put it in C.S. Lewis terms, the witch is freaking out because Aslan is there. I've never read that book. I've seen the movie. Though. I've seen 2 movies. All right, now, let's get to the scripture review. At that very time, he rejoiced greatly in the Holy Spirit and said, I praise you, O Father, Lord of heaven and earth, that you have hidden these things from the wise and intelligent and revealed them to infants. Yes, Father, for this way was well-pleasing in your sight. All things have been handed over to me by my Father, and no one knows who the Son is except the Father, and who the Father is except the Son, and anyone to whom the Son wills to reveal him. All right, a lot going on here. First of all, sorry, modalists. All right, because this is all happening at the same time. God the Son is in the Holy Spirit, praying to the Father. So sorry, modalists, this just doesn't work for you guys. And Jesus is rejoicing at the report of his apostles. They're happy, he's happy. And why are the demons subject to him, subject to the disciples in Jesus' name? Because the Father has handed all things over to the Son. That's what it said. Go back. All things have been handed over to me by my Father. That's authority. And no one knows the Father except through the Son, and vice versa. And then Jesus adds, except to whom I will to reveal it. To whom the Son wills to reveal it. So, to be reconciled to the Father, this is broadly speaking, this is broad gospel Bible speak, it's done through the Son. But the message that Jesus is sent to preach and has sent others to preach, it comes from the Father. This is predicted in the Old Testament through the prophets. So we talk about, again, the inbreaking of the kingdom. Here's Jesus. He's there. And the Father has sent him and given him authority to enact things. And this is something to be joyful about. And notice who Jesus says it's been revealed to. Infants. Now, he's not literally talking about babies, because babies don't understand things they can't even talk. He's contrasting infants with wise and intelligent men. That will become more apparent, Lord willing, on Tuesday when we continue the Bible chapter review and go on through the pericope. He's talking about kings want to know this stuff, but they don't. Jesus didn't come, walk in to the temple and all the synagogues and say, all right, all you teachers of the law, come with me. I'm revealing myself to you. Y'all are going to be my disciples. He picked people different from them. And even we see Jewish cities rejecting Jesus. And these Jewish cities led by these wise and intelligent Jews, they should be accepting him, but they don't. Jesus is giving the message to other people. This is the will of God. It pleased God to do it that way. Nobody can say, I figured it out because I'm wise and intelligent. That's not how it went down. Think about when Jesus said, Peter, who do you say that I am? And Peter said, oh, you're the Christ. And Jesus said, God has revealed this to you. It's not like you figured it out. God has revealed it to you. John the Baptist, right, was a voice crying in the wilderness. And the teachers of the law had to send their people to him. The revelation of who the Christ was didn't come through those people, through those channels, the wise and intelligent men, but rather the metaphorical infants. Is it a simile or a metaphor or an analogy? They're not, because they're not really infants. Now, how do you know Jesus didn't really mean to cut your hand off and poke your eyes out? Because sometimes he speaks figuratively, like right now. Because infants, we know, can't understand stuff or proclaim it. All infants can proclaim is wham, wham, wham. Uh-oh. Here comes another flock of wham, whams. Wham, 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 wham. That's why I wish I had a soundboard. That would be one of my soundboard things. Life's Been Good. Was that Glenn Fry, one of the Eagles? Near, 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 pow, pow. Did I ever use that as an intro song? I want to say I did. Life's been good to me so far. Boop, 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 beep, boop. That's a great transition into Gig Eva, because Gig Eva talks about the gig economy. So we're going to talk about the gig economy a little bit. Years ago, Carl Trueman coined a phrase called Big Eva, big evangelicalism. And it could be likened to what Chris Roseborough calls the evangelical industrial complex. But Big Eva is the circuit of dominant conferences and, dare I say, brands in evangelicalism. The Gospel Coalition, T4G, that's Together for the Gospel. Passion conferences, all right? Stuff like that. The coveted speakers, the people who draw a crowd, the John Pipers of the world, Mark Devers of the world, right? G3 would have been part of Big Eva, I think, before we all found out what kind of man Josh Bice was on social media. Lifeway is a part of Big Eva. You got the publishing houses too, Thomas Nelson. And all these people vouched for each other. And they were sort of the people to toe the line, and we're going to go with your opinions, and your conference subjects are the things that we should talk about, and anybody who goes against Big Eva gets put out of the circle, and good luck on the making any money on the book circuit or the speaking circuit. Sorry. As I couldn't remember Ed Stetzer's name the other day. Ed Stetzer's same 15 Calvinists, some of them would have been Big Eva. Some of them not. And Truman noted in his latest argument that the people in Big Eva, even though it kind of was part of the gig economy, were in some way validated or vouched for in that they had made their careers in institutions such as churches and seminaries. Like Russell Moore. Russell Moore is a part of Big Eva. The ERLC is Big Eva. Well, why should we listen to him? Well, you know, man, he went to New Orleans and he went to Southern Seminary, and you know, he has credentials from a big convention. Oh, John Piper, why should we listen to him? Well, because he's from this big church and he's done books. So you have these people in Big Eva. They were pastors of, I don't want to necessarily say big, but notable congregations, or professors at reputable accredited seminaries. And they were in the gig economy. So when he talks about Gig Eva, I think he's making a play on words, not just the gig economy, but gigabyte, like on the internet and Twitter. So the gig economy is something pretty new for regular workaday people like you and me. But it's been around a long time for pastors. We've talked about this on the show before. Like, pastors and seminary professors don't just make their income from what their church pays them. A lot of pastors they preach conferences and they preach at their friends' churches, and their friends come preach for them. And that's an extra income that they get. Or a seminary professor, you might have a seminary professor making $40,000 a year with a PhD, which is not a lot of money. But at the same time, the expectation is that guy's a bivocational pastor of a local church around the seminary, and maybe he's pulling in $20,000, $30,000 for that, not to mention his writing books, not to mention going to conferences. So pastors make a lot of side money on gigs. Right, they don't call it gigs, they call it ministry. Y'all remember what was in the summertime? I flew to Texas to preach a sermon and give a presentation. If I was in the music business or the motivational speaker business, I would call that a gig. But I went to preach a sermon and talk about church stuff. Musicians, by the way, have been in the gig economy for years, and that's where we get the gig thing from. So think about musicians. They don't have a job with Music Corp where they go sit at a desk and compose music and go play concerts that the corporation schedules for them. No, what they sign with a record company, and they produce, or they create an album which is produced by the record company. The record company sells the song. They get a piece of it, and where they make their money, more so from the piece they get of their music, is going on tour to support the album, going from city to city and playing a gig. Even if it's a weekend wedding singer or somebody like that, or a wedding photographer who has a regular 9-to-5 job, but on Saturdays goes and sings at weddings, that's a gig. But with the flattening of the world, that's a Thomas Friedman phrase, talking about the information age. With the flattening of the world, and now everybody's got a cell phone and being able to be connected, now more and more people can get into the gig economy. So think of something like driving an Uber or a Lyft. Anybody with a car and a decent driving record can do that. And you can do it whenever you want to. So if I wanted to make extra money, I could leave work. I could drive up to Marietta, click my phone on, and say, all right, Uber, I'm ready. And all of a sudden, people who don't know me from Adam would just start dinging me like, yeah, if I'll give you $30 to take me a ride over, take a ride over here to drive me here. And I could go in and out, I could do it whenever I want. And that individual ride is a gig. So if you think about a taxi driver who does it for a living, he has a taxi, it's a marked yellow cab, he goes driving around on the streets, people walked up to him, they ask for a ride, and he does that for 8 hours a day and goes back to the cab place and goes home. That's his job. Each ride is not a gig, but with Uber, each individual ride is a gig. And you can work whenever you want. It's basically whenever somebody needs something. But without the flat world and the cell phone network and the app, you wouldn't know that all those people need a ride. Before we had cell phones, you had to get a yellow car, paint it up like a taxi, and drive around a big city and say, all right, who needs a ride? Now people just beep, I want to go here. You may have seen Upworks, commercials for the website Upworks. And people on Upworks will get on there, and companies or individuals will say, I'll give you $50 or $500 to develop a website for me, or make a spreadsheet for me that reports financial figures. Make a Power BI dashboard for me. Like, my company doesn't really have the budget or the need to hire somebody full-time to do this. We just need somebody to come in and do it for us. It's a gig. Like, I just left work of my spreadsheet world. I could go home right now and get on Upworks and bid on jobs that I could do on the side. I work for a company that has the budget and the money and the need for a full-time person, but I could totally do extra on the side. That's the gig economy. And it's made possible through internet connection and the app and information sharing. It's easier to get a gig. It's easier to enter the gig economy now, easier than it used to be. Because how do you enter the musician gig economy? Well, you have to learn to play music. Then somebody has to notice you. Then you have to start playing local clubs, develop a following. Then a record executive or a scout or an A&R man comes to find you, signs you to the record company, fine-tunes you and produces your music and sends it out, and then does a publicity tour and support for you. That's not an easy industry to enter. Anybody can go to the Guitar Center and buy a guitar and start a garage band. Now try getting gigs. That's a lot harder. You sort of have to be proven. But now it's just out there with Uber and Upworks and the like, and you have the gig economy. And it's sort of a freedom that people didn't have before. But here's the thing, like I said, you're not as proven. You prove yourself by your Uber rating, right? Or your Upworks rating. How are you doing on these gigs? People are going to rate you. Excuse me. But now people are doing this in evangelicalism, and it's disturbing to Carl Trueman. Because at least before, you had to be somebody like John Piper, like Russell Moore, who was in the club, who had proven himself through service to a church or a denomination or a seminary, and you're held accountable by the other members of the informal guild, if you will, of Big Evil. But now anybody can just get on Twitter and say stuff, make a presentation, and make a conference. And Carl Trueman is saying, these people aren't proven. This is problematic. They haven't proven themselves through service to a church or XYZ. And I have to say, Big Eva is full of scoundrels who have proven themselves through service to a church. I mean, look at quote unquote Tabidi Anaweeble, aka Ron Burns. That guy, he proved himself through 9 marks, and he was a pastor at a church. What do I want that woke wannabe Marxist? What do I want? I don't care. He's officially in Big Eva. So what? Russell Moore's in Big Eva. So what? The idea is that Big Eva was policing itself. I mean, it's obviously corrupt. What's the proof? Pulpit and Pen and Protestia, the dissenter. John Harris, Conversations That Matter. I mean, good, come on. The work that some people in G3 have done. But at least they were supposed to be bona fide, right? So let's think of Carl Trueman didn't name any names. I will. Let's think of a really egregious example of gig evil. Let's think of somebody. I haven't mentioned him before because I really don't want anything to do with him. Some of these people are like Candyman or Voldemort. Like, just don't mention their name and they won't come around. All right? It's Voldemort. I know. I'm educated. I know it's Voldemort. The RT is has the French pronunciation. You talking about that Harry Potter devil stuff again? Joel Webbon. Joel Webbon has no business, biblically speaking, in any kind of ministry. Okay? But I can't think of anybody else who personifies Gig Eva more than Joel Webbon. Look up Joel Webbon's CV or resume on the internet. You can't find it. I don't know if he went to college, what he went to college for, what kind of secular employment he had. No idea. Can't find it. AI can't find it. Can't find it. What I do know about Joel Webbon is that he was the quote-unquote pastor of Right Response Church, which was some kind of Vineyard Movement church plant. And then that fizzled out, and he started Right Response Ministries, and he's founded some other church in Texas where he's the pastor. But the church is basically, I think it meets in a restaurant. You know, it's him and two other guys. You remember that movie, Charlie Wilson's War, where the he's a Democrat. He's just a young congressman, and he's concerned with Afghanistan, and he's working with the CIA to undermine Russia in Afghanistan. And Philip Seymour Hoffman's character works for the CIA, and he's going to talk to Charlie Wilson, and he goes, who you got working on it? And Philip Seymour Hoffman says, me and two other guys. That's basically Joel Webbon's church, okay? It's me and two other guys. It reminds me a lot of at least the start of Jeff Durbin's church. So Joel Webbon is some guy out in Texas who has a storefront church in a restaurant or something. He's the pastor because he says so. And maybe 10 people go there. I don't know. A lot of people don't go to my church, but this is not a person who's like proven himself through completing a seminary education or being a youth minister for 10 years. It's just some guy who started a storefront church and then does a podcast and a webcast where he sits around and talks about stuff. And he's like a shock jock, like saying stuff that he knows is going to incite people. He reminds me of the bad guy from American History X. And the Vineyard Movement thing, it came out that he was having a sexual relationship with one of his church members who was his girlfriend at the time. But listen, that happens. I don't care. That happens everywhere in every church. I mean, it's a sin, but I don't care. That sounds callous or cynical. That's the word I was looking for the other day. Whatever. I don't care. But if you're a pastor and you start having a sexual relationship with one of your congregants, you're disqualified from the pastorate. I don't know what else to say. And Joel Webbon's excuse, well, it wasn't a real church. It was more like a glorified Bible study. But yeah, man, you called it a church. And the organization that backed you called it a church. And how is it any different from the church you just made up and founded in Texas? So Joel Webbon is just some dude. And who knows what his education is? I mean, I don't know. If somebody knows, tell me. Somebody write in and tell me. He has no credentials to say, like, this man is someone you should be listening to about theology. Like, if somebody from Big Eva is up on stage giving a presentation, you can be like, oh, he's the pastor of so-and-so church, and he went to this seminary, and here's a Bible commentary he wrote, and he's published by these people. All right, Joel Webbin, you're just some dude who sits around saying incendiary things that are like borderline anti-Semitic and sometimes outright misogynistic. You're just shock jocking, trying to find disenchanted evangelical whites who have been pushed too far by the woke left. All right? And he's made a business out of it. He had a conference. Steve Deese came to his conference. Steve Deese, pretty notable guy. I don't know how he gets donations or whatever, but this is Gig Eva. He's just some dude who got on Twitter and said, hey, give me money. And as Cedric the Entertainer said in Barbershop, he's not the onlyest one. All right? He's not the onlyest one. All kind of movie references today. Just dropping all the pop culture on the Christian commute. Okay? But that's Gig Eva. It's like, who are these guys? He's like basically your Uber driver. He's a professional driver. So is Michael Andretti, right? I'm so out of it. Like those are like, I was about to say Bill Elliott. The racers from, I don't even know who drives. Is Jimmy Johnson still a driver? I don't even know who the best NASCAR driver is now. You know, Dick Trickle, Sterling Marlin, I don't know. Those guys are professional drivers. Well, so's the Uber guy. But one's in the gig economy. And Carl Trueman is a little concerned about Gig Eva. And well, of course he is. If he would have named somebody, it would have been one thing. Joel Webbin's just my egregious example. If you have an ounce of discernment, you'll have nothing to do with Joel Webbin. But here's what the Big Eva guys don't like, and it's the same reason that a lot of mid-sized pastors don't like social media. I've talked about that before. Back in the day, the pastor got up on Sunday, he could speak to 500 people, and he had the microphone for an hour, and he could say whatever he wanted. He could push his vision on the congregation. And if anybody disagreed, they had to go have 500 conversations. I guess 499 conversations. To refute the pastor, and then that person is factious, and he's back. He shouldn't be talking about that. Yeah, nobody could disagree with the pastor on whatever initiative he wanted to have because the pastor has the microphone. Well, now I can send a text message to every single person in my church if I want, an email if I want, because my church is not some mega church where we're hiding the emails. We don't hide emails and phone numbers. We all have each other's phone numbers and emails. Yes, because it's small, but also because we're not trying to protect a customer list. But even with social media, well, I can just get on Facebook and Twitter and say whatever I want, and everybody in my Sunday school class can see it. So if the pastor wants to get up and say we need to give more money to Annie Armstrong Easter offering, I get on Facebook and say Annie Armstrong's terrible. What are you going to do, pastor? You can't say I can say it to 500 people at once now too. And it's just Big Eva doesn't like Gig Eva because Big Eva has all these guys credentialed from whatever. And now people are going to listen to them, or people are going to listen to the uncredentialed Gig Eva people who just Twitter and a website popped up. It's like, well, what do I need to be a window washer? A wet rag in New York City, you know? These guys just pop up and now it's taking a chunk out of Big Eva. But wait a minute, you're not a part of the Gospel Coalition. You're not a part of Together for the Gospel. Yeah, too bad. If people like what I say, they can listen to me, and that's Gig Eva. If the Christian Commute raised money, it could be considered Gig Eva. I don't monetize this and push giving on this podcast on purpose. Okay? But I've never been a pastor before. I think I'm a little credentialed than a lot of people in Gig Eva. I mean, I do have a seminary degree. I do have a license to the ministry. Remember that weird guy I talked about last time? he gets on Facebook and preaches sermons. And he used to send us all his sermons. And it was just like, I don't want to be rude, but why in the world would I care about listening to your sermon? You didn't even graduate high school. Give me a break. But he would unsolicited send us his sermons. Listen, this is a free country. If somebody wants to listen to him and send him money, they can. Just like if somebody wants to believe that Joel Webbin is really a pastor and he's really a qualified pastor, not just some dude in a restaurant with some other weird people, they can. That's Gig Eva. David Morrell's a great example. The guy who runs Protestia in Dustin, all right, who used to be a Pulpit and Pen guy before Jordan and Pulpit and Pen sort of fell apart. David's a furniture salesman. Justin works in a big box store. They're just dudes. They don't have any credentials. But people listen to them. Well, why? Because they got something to say, and people, they're intelligent. I mean, when you had Pulpit and Pen, you had Jordan, who was a pastor, and he'd gone to Bible college, and you had me. I'd been to seminary, member of the Evangelical Theological Society. I mean, is ETS Big Eva? I don't know. But I can put on a resume, I'm a member of the Evangelical Theological Society, I have a master's degree in Christian apologetics from an accredited seminary, I'm licensed in the ministry. But some of the guys on Pulpit and Pen were just dudes. Some dude. And there's nothing wrong with being some dude. Jesus came and shared the message of the kingdom to people who were just some dude. So yeah, this rattles Big Eva. Good. Big Eva's terrible. But what about Gig Eva? Well, I'd hate to be the pastor who has congregants come in, young men. Hey, I've been listening to Joel Webbin. Oh, all right, I got to have a long talk with you, son. But this is a free country with a free market and a free economy, and the gig economy is kind of that. If you want to call an Uber ride with a 1-star rating and some driver named Ahmedistan with a Kia Sorento with one loose wheel, if you want to get in that thing, you can. If you want to listen to Joel Webbin, you can. In Gig Eva. But it's the same thing. Be just as discerning about Gig Eva as you can, as you should be with Big Eva, which, you know what, people have not done it very much. Now, like, Carl Trueman was too, I don't know, political. I don't know what the word to say is. Careful. Now, I can't stand the people. I'm not going to name any names, but this is the thing. Well, who are you talking about? Because I got to tell you, this is just my opinion. If I was to monetize the Christian commute and say, you guys send me supporting $20 donations, you know, I got $650 on my credit card for the what do you call it, the Podomatic fee this year. Y'all send me $20 a month, and you can be, we'll call you sustainers. Or I know what we'll call you, the pit crew on the Christian. How about that, the pit crew? You be a part of the pit crew, the Christian commute pit crew, or the carpool. You would be a part of the carpool. I could, all right, $10 to be in the carpool, $20 to be in the pit crew. Your sustaining donation, we appreciate it so much. I'm gonna make ads for it to make it pop up on Facebook and Twitter. I could do that. It would be part of Gig Eva. Should you listen to me? I think so. I mean, I did go to seminary for this stuff. I spent a lot of money on it. But you guys make the decision every day to listen to the show and keep listening to it. Because I'm some dude with more credentials than some of the people, but I'm still some dude. And if the wrongest thing I ever say is the lightning from heaven could be an attack of Satan, maybe. I think I'm doing pretty good. I think I'm doing pretty good on that. I think this is worth listening to. If I didn't, I wouldn't put it out there. But I'm not trying to. I'm not here for your money. I'm just here to help. The Gig Eva guys are there for your money because it's a gig. When you're the pastor of a church and you're preaching and shepherding, the money you get is just recompense for the time. Don't remuneration of services. I heard a priest call it once. It's remuneration of services. Don't call it a salary. It's remuneration of services. Don't muzzle the ox, right? The laborer is worth his wages. I'm not going to say that those guys are in it for the money, but when you're a pastor, like to take 5-star Johnny Hunt, for example, that scoundrel, and you create a Timothy Barnabas business and you're paying yourself $100,000 a year out of it, you spend a lot of time away from your church going to train other people to do what you do, train pastoral leadership, that's a gig. That's your side business. That's not a ministry. So you have to discern who's in Gig Eva for the money and who's in it, like patriots versus mercenaries. Like me and David and Dustin, I think we're patriots. And the Protestia people ask you for money, all right? And they make money on ads, all right? They make money on that. I still think they're in the realm of patriots, not mercenaries. But that's what you got to look out for, not just in Gig Eva, Big Eva. What are you going around preaching at T4G conferences the same sermon because you have a heart to reach the associate pastor fanboys who paid it for a ticket to see you? Come on, you ain't out in Africa where the streets have no name. You're staying in nice hotels and you've got an expense account and you're out there selling books. I don't believe for a minute that's a ministry. You do that for the money. You're taking time away from your wife and family because you're doing it for the money. I talked to a guy at work today. I'm about to go to a meeting with him in Texas. Be away from my wife and kids. Why? I'm doing it because it's my job. I mean, I'm actually sort of looking forward to the trip, but it's just for my job. That's my job. So these Big Eva guys, they're in it for the money because it's an industrial complex. And a lot of the Gig Eva guys are in it for the money. And they're just entering the industrial complex. They're just a little less industrialized. There's your competition, Carl Trueman. And what are you going to do, Christian, with your time and money? If you're like me, you got 2 hours a day for podcasts on the way to work and on the way to back 3 days a week. I mean, I guess you could, there's some days I can sit in my office and listen to a podcast and it doesn't distract me from my work. You know what I've done? Listen, my pointer finger hurts like with an arthritic pain from hitting Control-C, Control-V. That's what I've been doing for the last 2 days. Control-C, Control-V to where my finger hurts. All right. Some days it ain't all queries and spreadsheets. Some days like Control-C, Control-V, Control-C, Control-V. I got to reclassify some things. But it'll support wonderful, wonderful spreadsheets going forward. Listen, I have respect for the people who come and put on CPE classes for me so I can keep my, I mean, that's a racket, but so I can keep my CPA license. I have to take CPE, the people who travel into Georgia, the Georgia Society of CPAs, and give us conferences. That's the gig economy. That's where I learned about the gig economy. Good for them. Uber drivers, I think Uber drivers are great. Whenever I need a ride somewhere and can't drive there, Uber driver. Do you know how many trips to the airport picking up my parents Uber has saved me? I hate driving to Atlanta. Thank God for Uber. They can spend my whole inheritance on Uber if they want to. All right, I'm glad for Uber drivers. I'm glad for podcasters. But you got a lot out there to pick from. You can pick Big Eva, you can pick Gig Eva, but please be discerning. Make sure what they're saying lines up with the Bible. And I can tell you on the Christian commute, whether you want to call it's part of gig either or not, all right? Nobody's vouching for me. I have people who vouch for me, but nobody's vouching for me on this. I just decided to do this podcast. I didn't ask anybody, should I do it? I didn't ask anybody to endorse me and put endorsements on the website. I just did it. You can just do it too. Some of y'all can just do it to help me with the Y Project. How about that? But I'm going to keep it biblical. That's what I'm promising to you, Christian commuters. Thanks for listening to the Christian Commute. Lord willing, I'll be back with you again Tuesday. As always, God bless. And as always, Christianity is not about getting saved. It's about being saved. Now, some people might say, thank you for stopping at Food Giant. Have a great day. And as always, God bless. Get on Facebook and go to Food Giant Hueytown and follow it. You won't regret it. But I have a similar saying. God bless. Remember, Christianity is not about getting saved. It's about being saved.